All right, today we're tackling one of history's giants, a ruler whose name is synonymous with both incredible power and spectacular failure, Xerxes the Great.
History loves a good loser, especially one brought down by their own pride. And when we think of Xerxes, king of Persia, that's usually the story we get, a massive failure. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if the man we remember for his defeat was actually way more competent than we give him credit for?
So let's dig into that. How does a king who ruled one of the biggest empires the world had ever seen get his entire legacy boiled down to just one military campaign that went wrong? Okay, first things first, who was this guy? We're talking about Xerxes I. He reigned over the massive Achaemenid Empire for more than 20 years. And get this, his name in Old Persian, Xerxes, means ruling over heroes. I mean, talk about setting expectations high, right? But yeah, for most of us, that's not what his name brings to mind. Instead, it's forever linked to that disastrous war against the Greeks. I mean, think of the movie 300, the Spartans at Thermopylae, the big naval showdown. For so many people, that's the beginning and end of the Xerxes story. But here's where we're gonna pump the brakes. To really get this guy, you have to look at what he did before he ever set foot in Greece. He wasn't just some invader who got lucky, he was a canny ruler who first had to get a handle on a gigantic empire. And here's the thing, Xerxes didn't start from zero, not even close. He was handed the keys to this incredible, well-oiled imperial machine built by his father, Darius the Great. He had a massive territory, a superhighway for communication, provinces all set up to provide soldiers, and a whole team of seasoned military advisors. He basically had a kingdom on a platter, ready to go. But inheriting a throne is one thing. Actually keeping it, that's a whole different ballgame. And yeah, the second Xerxes took over, the empire started testing him. Rebellions just lit up in some of the most critical spots, like Egypt and Babylon. His reign could have been over before it really got started. So what does he do? His response was lightning fast and decisive. He didn't just send some general to clean up the mess. Nope. Around 484 BC, he personally marched his army into Egypt to put down that rebellion. Then he turned around and did the same in Babylon, stamping out multiple uprisings. This guy was hands-on, showing everyone right from the start who was in charge. Okay, so with his home turf locked down, Xerxes turns his attention west, toward Greece. And the plan he comes up with? Wow. It's on a scale that's just mind-boggling for the ancient world. This wasn't just an invasion. He was literally trying to bend the planet to his will to make it happen. But why? What was the point of all this? Well, it really boiled down to two things. First, good old-fashioned revenge. His dad had been totally embarrassed by the Greeks at the Battle of Marathon. But it was also way bigger than that. This was about manifest destiny, Persian style, pushing the empire onto a whole new continent. And the way he went about it is just incredible. He launched two of the craziest engineering projects in military history. First, he built these massive bridges out of boats lashed together to literally walk his army across the sea, from Asia to Europe. And then, because a storm had wrecked a Persian fleet before, he just carved a canal right through a mountain peninsula. He wasn't just crossing the sea, he was trying to command it. But of course, this is where the epic story hits a major snag. You can have the biggest army in the world, but audacity eventually runs into reality. And for Xerxes, that reality was the fierce, stubborn resistance of the Greeks. So here's the quick and dirty timeline of how it all went down. Early 480 BC, they cross into Europe. By August, they get that famous victory at Thermopylae. But it's bloody. Then, boom, a month later, the whole thing comes crashing down at the naval battle of Salamis, and a year later, with a few more key defeats, it's pretty much game over. Let's zoom in on Thermopylae for a second, because, yeah, Xerxes won, technically. He found a way around the Spartans. But it was a brutal, costly win. And more than that, it should have been a massive warning sign. This was proof that the Greeks were not just going to bow down. He was completely underestimating their will to fight back. And that underestimation leads right into the big one, Salamis. Look, on paper, this should have been a blowout. The Persian fleet was the heavyweight champion, huge ships built for the open ocean. The Greek fleet was the scrappy, lightweight fighter, small, quick ships made for tight corners. The problem for Xerxes is that the fight took place in a phone booth, not an open ring. And this is where Xerxes just gets completely played. The Greek commander Themistocles pulls off this brilliant bit of deception.
He sends a fake traitor with a message saying the Greeks are panicking and about to run. Xerxes swallows it hook, line, and sinker. He sends his huge ships into these tiny straits to block their escape and walks right into the real trap himself.
And the result? Absolute chaos. A total disaster. In those tight waters, the big Persian ships were sitting ducks. They couldn't turn, they couldn't maneuver, they just got picked apart. Salamis wasn't just a lost battle. It was the moment his whole grand strategy just fell apart. See, his entire plan rested on two pillars: his massive army on land and his powerful navy at sea. They had to work together. The fleet wasn't just backup, it was the supply line. So when that naval pillar got knocked out at Salamis, the whole structure came down. Suddenly, his huge army is stranded deep in enemy territory, and their lifeline is cut. He had no choice but to pull most of them back.
So that brings us to the big question. How do we score this guy? Is he just the king who flew too close to the sun? Well, to get a fair picture, we gotta look at the whole package. And when you actually break it down, it's this wild mix of genius and, well, total blunders. On one hand, you have this incredible ambition and scale, true innovation in engineering, the ability to get this massive empire moving. But on the other hand, you've got crippling weaknesses, arrogance, a terrible intelligence failure, depending way too much on his navy, and just fundamentally not understanding his enemy. So really, his campaign in Greece is way more than just a loss. It's become this timeless lesson from history, hasn't it? It shows you what's possible when you dream big, but it's also the ultimate cautionary tale about what happens when that ambition isn't checked by reality. And that leaves us with one last thing to chew on. Xerxes went for it all. He tried to conquer a continent, to literally change the map. And he failed in spectacular fashion. But is that worse than never trying at all? Is it better to be remembered for a magnificent failure, or just not be remembered? It's a tough one.